Good morning, lovely people. What a beautiful morning it is too. The sun is high, there's a stillness in the air, the birds are singing. Perfect for all the jobs I have to do today. Oh my goodness, how are you all getting on with the mad month of May? Busy, busy, busy? Yes, I know I definitely have been. So, I was just thinking about this as I was walking down here this morning. Oh, stray hair. I think in the last sort of 3 weeks or so, I've been coming to the garden probably about 4 times a week, which is a bit more than, you know, the rest of the year, apart from the occasional visits just to water. But yeah, it's about 4 times a week at the moment, just because there's so much to do. And I reckon, in terms of actually work, I probably do about 4 hours each time. But my visits last 6 or 7 hours, partly because of the walk down here and the walk home, all the little sitting down breaks I take. And, for example, at the weekend, when there are so many other folk around, we inevitably stop to chat and catch up and discuss how our gardens are going and how our families are and all those other things you talk about when you become friends with people rather than just acquaintances. So yeah, it has been busy, and for my last couple of visits I haven't shown you what I've been up to because it's been just kind of hard slog stuff. So what I thought I would do today, just before we get stuck in, it's going to be all about seed sowing today. But before we get stuck in, I thought I'd quickly show you where I'm at with the garden, because, for instance, literally, 8 days or so ago, and it was the beginning of May, and I was showing you the May tour, the garden is finally looking completely different. So I'll give you a quick scoot around. I'd like to say a quick thank you to Linda, Sinead and Geraldine. It's having to remember then. Those lovely 3 ladies have all sent me some calendula seed. Yay, thank you. Because if you remember a couple of weeks ago when I was planting out the peas, I was going to do a load of underplanting with calendula, and I looked for my jam jar, still looking as if it's going to appear by magic. I had a jam jar full of seeds that I couldn't find, so I can only assume that I must have divvied them up and given them away. But anyway, thank you ladies for the calendula seed. They're going to go in today too. So much still to do, but I do feel like there is light at the end of this crazy garden tunnel. Because, for instance, just a quick catch up on this, at home yesterday, all of my tomatoes and squash plants, they've moved out of my front sunny, really quite warm windowsill. They're now outside of my flat, but within the hallway, so they're still protected, but it's considerably cooler out there. I've got a massive skylight right above my stairwell, so they have good enough light. I wouldn't say it's brilliant light because it is a north facing aspect of the roof, but it's good enough light to keep them going for now. But the main thing is it's cooler out there, they can begin to harden. So they'll stay there for the next, I would say between 1 week and 2 weeks. The reason between 1 week and 2 weeks is I will start to bring down 1 tray at a time down to the garden to go into the cold frame to finish hardening. So that basically, where are we now? I think it's about the 13th of May today, I'm not sure, 12th or 13th. So basically by the end of May, they'll all be down here and they'll all be ready to then actually plant into the soil. So that's what I mean about it feels like there's light at the end of the tunnel. So I'm going to do a load of seed sowing direct. The plants are gradually getting hardened off at home. I will we may not get around to this in this video, but then all the stuff in the cold frame, all the brassicas need pricking out and potting on. So gradually over the next 2 to 3 weeks, everything will be where it needs to be at, either sown or planted, apart from with the salads, where I'm going to do successional sowing. So although I'm going to sow some today, middle of May, I'll do a repeat sowing mid-June-ish. Bye bye poppy, that's why you wobbled. Mid-June, and then another sowing mid-July. But really, it's barely anything. So even though I'm sure we're all feeling absolutely like, ugh, from all the work in May, hang in there, keep doing the work, because by about the first week of June, you know what, we're going to be able to sit in our deck chairs, just sit back and look at it all growing and not have to do a thing apart from watering and weeding. Oh, that rain was blessed, but it did bring a few weeds up, and now there's no sign of rain again for another couple of weeks, so it'll be hand watering. Anyway, that's enough of me burbling on. Let me show you just briefly where the garden is at the moment before we start doing some seeding. Yes, things really are starting to move on a pace and change. So in this top bed, you remember that was all brassicas down that end. The final bed, basically I ran out of steam and energy, so that still needs sorting. The next two along, all I've done, I say all I've done, I got all the old brassicas out and just sort of shoved my fork in the soil and moved it backwards and forwards a bit before the rain came, just so that the rain could get in there, because they were so dry and concrete-like. And then after the rain, I've kind of, I've had to fork them over quite a bit because they were so compact, but not to anything like a fine tilth, because I'm planting squash in there, so they quite simply don't need to have that fine kind of tilth. And then once the squash are out in the autumn, I will then pop a load of compost leaves and cardboard on, so that hopefully next year they're a bit easier to deal with. These two beds will be tomatoes. This one had celeriac and celery in it until about February, and then when I took them all out, I didn't dig, but I did cover it in a really thick layer of leaves. Didn't have any cardboard, just the leaves, and that seems to have worked a treat too, because I've hardly had to do anything. Basically, I've just kind of raked the surface a bit, and again I left it. It was fairly moist, but I left it exposed for the rain for an afternoon, and then got it covered to trap all that moisture in. This one, where at the end of the season with the flint corn, again, I didn't dig. I forked all the flint corn out, and then all the green and yellowing material I chopped up quite finely, spread it right across the top of this bed, covered it in cardboard, and again it's worked a treat. Most of that material has been taken down or rotted down over the winter, so again with this bed, pretty much just a bit of a rake. Yay! So I should have said as well, with all of them before the rain, I scattered the chicken poo pellets on so that the rain would reconstitute them, as it were. Quick rake in, and then covered, because I shan't be planting for a couple of weeks or so. But it's great, it's such a relief to get this bed ready. I think this is pretty early for me to get this lot ready, apart from that last one. I'll tackle that another day. Now, all the poles and structures are up. Look, it's an absolute maze of bean poles and teepees. However, another case of running out of energy. I haven't yet put all the sort of the sideways lashings on these bean poles, nor have I put the flying buttresses coming out of them and into the soil. That's okay. I can still seed in front my bean seeds, because it'll take me a while to do anything, and then in the meantime I'll do all the final bits of lashings and support. At the moment I'm more concerned about getting seed in, and then on a quieter day, things don't exist like that, do they? Do all my lashings. Exactly the same with the TPs. because I won't be planting this squash in here for another 2 to 3 weeks. I haven't done their extra supports, but exactly the same with the bean poles. That can happen over the next couple of weeks or so, because when I direct seed today, I'm just going to be doing it in these middle sections. So that's kind of why I wanted to, I'm trying to give you an overview by stepping back a bit. So the squash will go in about 2 to 3 weeks, and once they're in, I can then do my successional plantings of all my salad type things underneath them. But my first sowings will all be down the middle bit where there are no TPs. So that's good. Also, more bean poles. So many bean poles. Oh, look at them. What a beautiful sky that is this morning. Gorgeous. After the rain, I made the most of it and earthed up my spuds again while the soil was manageable. Oh, it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. As you can see, these happy spuds want to grow. So when did I earth up? That was about 5 days ago. That's their second earthing. The first one was when I was having to hack it, as you saw in a video probably a week or so ago. So I gave them the first earthing, then the rain came, proper rain, gave them a second earthing. Oh, there's a new one coming up there too. These 2 beds, if you remember, up until a few days ago, they were covered in cardboard. So these have now been prepped as well. The covers on them, well, 2 reasons. One, to try to stop the foxes digging and the cats pooping and all that usual palaver, but also to just help, and you can see how it does, retain moisture. So it's nice and damp under there, because I am going to be seeding these 2 beds today also. Oh, so much seeding to do, it's fab. Over there you can see, well, I've had to nick the nets off the onions. I did have some more leaves to use to trim down to mulch, but I ran out. So I'm hoping this weekend I can do a load of mowing in the communal areas and get this lot mulched. And I think, I'm not sure if we're due rain or not, but if we're not, what I'll do is I'll just give it a jolly good soaking. And then finally, all the purple sprouting broccoli are out. Oh, it's so sad. However, I've not had a chance / the energy to get this bed prepped yet, which is a bit of a nuisance, because I was planning on sowing it today. Never mind, Rome wasn't built in a day. You can see it's quite lumpy and dry and hard. So yeah, I'll tackle this over the next few days. I'm going to plant it. I've decided I'm going to have all of this for fennel, because I do love my fennel. And then if any of my celery make it, the celery will go here. So the celery is still really tiny at home, no hurry. With the fennel, well, I could seed any time from now right through even into towards the end of July, do some more seeding. Hey Rosie. She's ignoring me. Now she's had her cuddle and feed. Yeah, so there's no desperate hurry. It would have been great to start this today, but over the last few days it's a case of prioritising. I don't want to kill myself getting all these beds ready. But yeah, so you can see 2 lovely beds here ready, these 3 beds here ready, all in the back end of the pea, those 4 beds there. Everything is ready to go, and the structures are up. Yippee! Right, should we start doing some seeding? Joy! Oh, this is what it's all about. Apart from those little gusts of wind. I hope you're going to be able to hear me okay. So, before I'm going to do any sowing today, I've given all the little areas I am going to sow, I've given them all a really good soaking. Now, moisture wise, a couple of inches down, we've got really good moisture from those couple of days of rain we had. Yay! But in the very surface, it had started to dry out. Poppy, don't even think about it. So obviously putting in these little teeny tiny seeds into dry soil isn't going to do anything. So giving it all a good soak. In terms of bed preparation, this is the one that I showed you a few weeks ago when I took the cardboard off. This was the first bed I took the cardboard off. Actually, that's a fib, the potato trenches were, but this was the first one I properly showed you. And you could see how beautifully friable the soil was. It was fab. So it was just a really light forking. I then gave a dressing of the chicken poo, gave it a day of, I can't remember whether it was a day of rain or whether I had to water it in, raked it over, got it covered again to trap that moisture, and I've literally uncovered it in the last couple of days when I've put the 2 peas up. The bottom line is, I think this year, I'm going to be able to sow directly into this soil rather than have to buy compost to put on the top to sow into, which is what I had to do last year. I don't have the money for compost on the top. So, for these 3 middle sections, here comes that wind again. It's all going to be my salady type of things. Now, if you remember when I was preparing, they're just over there, the spod trenches. Oh, this wind. I'll carry on. When I was preparing the spod trenches, I had to remove the last of my chard, which was still looking great. So, bearing that in mind, and it's something you might want to do when you're sowing something that will go right through winter, make sure you put it somewhere that you're not going to want to use again anytime too soon. So instead of having my chard in this top bed this year, I'm going to go doop, doop, hop a couple of beds and do it in the bed that's just behind you, so that this time next year, or a month ago, when I'm digging this out to put my potatoes in, all of these salads will have been long over, so I can cover the beds. But the chard, which will be over there, fingers crossed, surviving through winter, will carry on. Okay, so what am I sowing? I am, for my lettuce, I'm going to do the Reuben's Red. If you remember at the start of the year, I couldn't find any anywhere. So I bought a substitute, which I'll speak about in a second. But then you marvellous people came to the rescue, yay! So I've got plenty of Reuben's Red. I really enjoyed it last year. One of the main reasons, well, it was gorgeous and tasty. It's got quite a firm leaf, but it was really slow to bolt, which was amazing considering the heat and the drought we had. It may have also been something to do with the way I seeded, which I'll come on to in a second. But at the start of the year when I was ordering seeds, I couldn't find any, so I went for another lovely heritage variety called Drunken Woman. Obviously I had to have that one, didn't I? Not going to sow these today. They will be one of my successional sowings under the teepees. As I was mentioning, just behind you, I will do a combination of Swiss chard again. Again, I've bought the rainbow because I love all the colours of the stalks, and some beetroot because they're another one which will go through winter. So essentially, when these beds in the late autumn, when I harvest all the squash, fingers crossed I'm harvesting, and all the salads have gone over, I can get these beds composted, mulched, whatever, covered in cardboard, tucked up, fallow to rest for the winter and let the worms play. These two, which will go through winter, the chard and the beetroot, will have a separate bed so I don't need to disturb them. Just in front of, so lettuce here, next bed over, I'm going to be doing, I've got 2 packets, some spinach, because, well, you can't get through life without spinach, really, can you? Now, also, for each section, this is going to work, I'm going to just give each little section a border of calendula, as it were. So, it will sort of delineate if I'm doing different varieties, it will help to just delineate that. But also, let's face it, it's a way of me getting more calendula into the garden because I do so love it, and I'm getting more and more and more requests for my calendula oils and balms. So the more I can grow, the better. So yeah, a note on, I'm going to start sowing actually as I talk to you. A note on how I sowed last year and how I think that helped with the drought situation. I sowed really, really thickly, way more thickly than any seed packet would ever tell you to do. I think some people may have raised their eyebrows a little bit at the time, but I didn't care, I'll do my own thing. The thing about sowing so thickly, as the little ones were coming up, where's that calendula? As the little ones were coming up, by way of thinning, I was taking leaves and in some cases whole plants out, so that thinned them a bit. However, they were never thinned so much that there was ever a glimpse of bare earth between any of the plants. They were so tightly packed, and you might think, oh, surely they're arguing for space if they're so tightly packed. They really seemed to thrive. So, why does the wind always pick up just when you're getting seeds out of the packet? Yeah, they really seem to thrive, and being so closely packed in no bare soil, of course that meant that the soil wasn't, they were acting as their own mulch. So I fully intend to sow as closely again this year. Yeah, let's get some more calendula in. There's a part of me which just wants to sow these entire beds right now. But yeah, I used to be very good at planning successional sowing. And I don't know, I think last year, because I had so many issues at the beginning of the year with hinky compost, I think I panicked a bit. And yeah, I just ended up sowing everything in one go because I didn't think anything was going to work. Of course it did. So, I'm going to do a crossways, as I said, really quite closely. But another reason for doing the calendula either side, they're such an obvious seed as they come up. It will show me that this is the seeded bed, as in they're not weeds. And then these little straight lines for the saladings, again, hopefully it means that it's just obvious that they are seeds and not weeds, because let's face it, with this current warmth we're getting, and if we get some rain, yeah, we all know what happens with warmth and rain combination. So, guys, thank you so much for sorting me out with the red Rubens. I'm not going to say it's a lifesaver because that's silly. I wouldn't have died without them, but I'm certainly very, very happy to have them. Oh, let's see, how thin do I need to be? So these little drills, oh, they're maybe 1 centimetre. That little pre-soak has worked wonders. They're going into damp drills. The thing is, if you are going to do some seeding and the ground is really dry on the top, like ours has been, where did I get to there? Give the ground a good soak, but leave it sort of half an hour or so. Let that moisture get down. But also, if you're using mains water, as I've had to today, just because the water butt is crazily still, well, it's virtually empty again. Yes, if you're using the mains water, it's really quite chilly coming out of the mains. So if you pre-soak, leave it half an hour, that moisture's got time to get down a ways, plus it's got time to just warm up a little bit. Yay! Right, I will get to the end of this row with this packet. I've got 2 packets. Yay! There we go. Okay, so where have I got up to? That's my next one to do. I'm not going to show you the seeding of everything of all these salads today because that will take far too long. But that's just to give you an idea of how I'm going about it today. Repeat this in the next few beds. Oh, and just to say as well, I think I've worked out where to put them, but I didn't grow any sunflowers last year, and it was the first time in ages, well, forever, that I haven't grown sunflowers. I felt like I didn't have the space. But then I kind of felt awful about it afterwards because for anyone who's been watching a while, you'll know that all the different flowers I grow, they're all for a specific child that I looked after, but who sadly died. So yes, the flowers are for the pollinators, of course they are, and they brighten the place up. But essentially it all started with me trying to find a positive way to deal with some of the really negative stuff I used to have to deal with at work. Oh, God love him. So it all started with one of my teenage kids, big teenage kid, because most of the children I used to look after were under 4. A lot of the reasons for the transplant, a lot of those reasons, they get diagnosed, well, usually by the age of 2, hopefully. So it's quite unusual for us to be looking after big kids. And I just remember he was so incredibly shy, and it took him ages to warm up, as it were, to any of the nurses. But for some reason, we just clicked. I totally adored him. And I'll never forget, there was a day when we used to talk about gardening. Gardening and football is what we used to talk about. We had different football teams, but that didn't matter. And I'd gone to work one day and he handed me a little packet of sunflower seeds. Well, it wasn't a packet as such, it was just some loose sunflower seeds in an envelope that he decorated for me. For which I was really grateful. I got them sowed and they were coming along, and I think I'd had them at home and brought them down to the cold frame, and just when I was about to plant them out into the garden, he died. And you know, with all the kids, it's always a possibility. These are some really, really, really poorly children, but I just not expected it for him. I thought he was going to make it. So there was a part of me, I thought, I don't even want the sunflowers anywhere near me, I can't bear it. But then I thought, no, I'll plant them, I'll get them in the garden. And they flourished, they were beautiful. And all of that summer, every time I saw these beautiful, smiling sunflower heads, I thought of that kid. And it made me smile every single time. So instead of remembering a kid and crying, I was remembering him and smiling. So that was the beginning of me sowing flowers for all the kids. Like I say, last year I didn't sow any sunflowers because I thought I had no space. But the lovely Sinead has sent me some, ironically, perfectly named teddy bear sunflower, which I don't think get too big. I really, really want to put them in somewhere. I really want to have sunflowers in the garden again. So I think I've spotted somewhere they can go. So they can go in this morning too. But for now, that's enough chit chat. I need to get busy. Well, that's all the salads underway. What what a beautiful and perfect morning it's been so far. There's something so utterly special about this moment each year when we start to put our teeny tiny little seeds straight into our soil. I do love it. It's, yeah, for me it's always a really special moment, and I think it's one to be treasured. For me, I like to do it quietly. It's not a weekend day, there's hardly anyone around. I like to have that moment of being completely absorbed in the moment of popping that little seed into the soil. Oh, so beautiful. And you know, it's in some ways, although I have planted a few things like the spuds and the onions and carrots and what have you, it's sort of much earlier in the year when it's still a bit chilly and damp, but on a day like today that's just so warm and gorgeous with that beautiful breeze, I just feel it's a moment to really, really be at one with the soil, be really close up with it. Oh, it's gorgeous, it's teeming with life. When you just stop for a few minutes or go really slowly for a few minutes, it's just myriad insects everywhere. It is beautiful, it's wonderful, it's my light, it's the light that keeps me going all the time, this moment each year. Anyway, that's enough from me for now. I've got loads more to do today, absolutely tons, but I'm going to put it into a separate video because otherwise you'll be watching a 5-hour video. I'm not going to make 5 hours of footage today, but yeah, I think that's enough for today. I will see you very soon, in a couple more days in fact, as I move on to what's next. Beans and chickpeas and lots of new things to try this year. So until then, stay well everybody, and just relish those beautiful quiet moments in the garden of just you, the soil, the seed, the birds, the insects. Have a chilled, optimistic, loving, planting and sowing time, everyone. Take care, and I will see you soon.